This episode is brought to you by the Pest Rangers. Finding insects in your home can be a real pest. I know I felt that way when I discovered termites living rent-free in my house. But thanks to the team at the Pest Rangers, I'm no longer bugging out over this issue. So if any creepy crawlers are cramping your style, there's no ifs, ands, or bugs about it. You gotta call the Pest Rangers. For more information on how to rid your home from unwanted pests, call the Pest Rangers today at 570-826-1114 or visit them online at thepestrangers.com. This episode is brought to you by Kavanaugh's Grill, one of my favorite places to eat and drink in any PA. They've got one of the best outdoor patios with 13 TVs and over 20 beers on tap. You can also dine inside at this cozy Irish-style pub where your beer never goes empty. Did I mention how delicious their food is? Their in-house smoked brisket, barbecue ribs, and wings are to die for. So grab your friends and have a drink on me at Kavanaugh's. Mention code STACKS for one free draft beer with purchase of any entree when you dine in. Located at 163 North Main Street in Mountaintop, Kavanaugh's is open at 4 p.m. during the week and 12 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday during football season. Dine in today at Mountaintop's only Irish-style pub. This episode is brought to you by Burn, the fitness company behind the Today Show approved Burn Board. If I'm being honest, working out can be a real chore, especially as a new dad in desperate need of sleep and cardio. Burn is founded by NEPA native Jimmy T. Martin, and his Burn Board offers a low-impact core and cardio experience unlike anything I've done before. They have hundreds of on-demand workouts that are great for beginners, seasoned athletes, and out-of-shape podcast hosts who love supporting small businesses. My wife and I use it pretty frequently throughout the week, and it's honestly a great way to burn a ton of calories without burning a ton of cash. Not to mention, it's a great tool for skiers, runners, wrestlers, and hockey players. Jimmy is offering all On the Stacks listeners 15% off when they use the code STACKS15. Visit theburn.com today to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15 at checkout. Again, that's theburn, THEBRRN.com to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15. It's time to get on board today with Burn.
Don't think for one moment at night when you're a supervisor or a leader of people that you're not a conversation at a dinner table. What kind of conversation do you want people to have about you? I said, man, the philosophy behind that. So picture that. You're eating dinner with your wife, kids, spouse, whatever, friends, buddies. Are you complaining about the boss? Are you saying, hey, I'm grateful. I got my boss gave me time off. I got this going on. I got that going on. I got an award today. I got recognized today. I've got an opportunity to get promoted or a temp promotion or whatever. Or are you like this guy? Wait till you hear what Will did today. I can't wait. Crack a cold one. It's going to be a long conversation,
yeah, you don't want to
right?
be that guy.
Right.
Oh yeah, whoa, look, they can never keep me down, I'm going, and if I ever fail, just know I'll go again. I never quit, cause I know that every loss may lead to another win. I'm going up.
Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr. This is the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Dr. Will Ramey, owner of Shared Leadership. What's up, podcast episode 128 of the On the Stacks podcast here in the Blue Door studio. Dr. Will Ramey, welcome to the show.
Bill, I am super pumped to be here today, my friend. Pouring rain couldn't keep me away.
Nothing could stop you.
No, that's it.
Yeah, I love it. And, as you know, I already shared this with you, but pending my carpet installation in my new studio, as long as that goes well this week, this will be the final episode in the current building, the current studio that I'm in. So we're, I hope you're a closer, man.
I am a closer. I'm going to bring it down for you. I won't let you down, Bill.
All right. A lot of pressure, man.
That's it. I got broad shoulders, strong back. Let's go. Let's do it.
You're tall. How tall are you?
I'm 6'3", about 215-ish pounds, depending on what I had for Friday night dinner.
Depending on the day, right?
That's it.
Yeah. So, as I said, this episode is, kind of a significant part of the On the Stacks history. And for those that may not know, depending on how long you've been following me or not, this studio, the Blue Door studio, is located inside my family printing business, Corcoran Printing. So, I want to give a little shout out to my dad for letting me operate rent-free here for a few years.
Yeah.
And I joke and I tell everybody, for the last, 3 years, I've been basically like living in my parents' basement. That's like what this is equivalent to, right? But in a business sense, you know?
Yeah.
I've been living rent free here for a few years, and I'm grateful to say, you know, I know it's already public knowledge that I purchased a commercial building in Kingston, Pennsylvania, and we're moving the operation. We're out of space. I mean, look at this.
I know. I mean,
You could barely-
my wingspan here.
you could barely fit.
To crop some shots and bang some things around. But,
I know your wingspan, like you probably touch both walls in here.
Right. Yeah, you got to spread your wings and fly, Bill. The new
Yeah.
space, though, I see the post. It's looking great. Coming along night. It's going to be exciting.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
Now,
it.
how are you going to get that machine oil and ink smell though in the new place? Because that really is what people notice about the space here.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll have to somehow like transport that in a can or something and
Bottle
you know,
it
like
up and sell it.
Yeah, there you go. And like you know, like an aerosol sprayed around before guests come in. You know, still get that same, you know,
On the
smell.
stacks, eau de perfume.
That's right. I like that. Well, again, man, I'm pumped that you're here. You and I connected on LinkedIn. I'm not even sure how long. I know I've been seeing. By the way, I pay attention. I see people's names pop up that that you know follow the show and engage with the show on whatever platform. I check them all. It's me. You know, I'm back there. I'm looking. You know,
Yeah.
and I just want to say I appreciate your support and engagement. We didn't even know each other. We barely still know each other, and we're going to learn now.
I guess I cold called you in the internet sense.
Kinda,
With
yeah.
the show here. You had the email request. But no, I've been following your show for a little under a year. I had a friend of mine, Danielle Weinshank, I believe, liked one of your things here. She's big in the Leadership Lackawanna programs here. I believe I saw her like one of your posts, and
Then you were hooked.
I was hooked, right? Because I'm like, how do I spend my drive into work, right?
Oh, so this was it. This is the story.
And, right. So I started listening to podcasts. I saw that on there. So let me download that. Spotify, right? Went down, downloaded on the stacks. I started listening. I said, man, there's some brilliant guests on this show. I said, this is fantastic, right? And it was entertaining. And then I realized it wasn't just Spotify. Hey, get on YouTube. I'm like, there's a video component to this. Are you crazy?
Yeah. And at that time, there probably wasn't video when you first started listening. If it was about like a year ago, you know.
Yeah, it started popping up. So watching that transition, and I'm seeing you interact with your guests, and people are having fun. They're loving life. It looks like a good time. And the stories, they hook you right in. And it's local people here. So I'm sitting at the keyboard, and I'm saying, geez, I just started this business. I'm looking to try to build some rep local and share my story with some people. I went to the website and I said, episode request. You don't know this, but it was probably about 3 months in the making of me getting up the courage behind that keyboard.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me draft this up. Here's what I think would work.
Yeah, how can I sell this to them?
And hit send. So I got the initial one through. And then I probably had an auto reply that came back because, a smart person, right? You got auto replies and things set up.
Yep.
Oh, can you fill this other form out? That's a little bit
right.
longer.
So wait. So hold on. I just requested, but now you're asking me to fill out another form?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And that one was great, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, no problem. I went through it. And it was a few hours or, it wasn't even a whole day later. You got back to me and said, hey, this is great. Love to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't always happen that easy or quick, by the way. So kudos to you, man, because, I look for people that I think can bring a lot of value to the show, and like I said, we didn't really know each other, or, we're still getting to know each other now, but, in all the information that you had sent me, it was the right information, in the sense that it's the right content, I think, that fits my listeners, and you've done a lot of really, really amazing things in your career, the Army, Space Force, and we'll talk about all that stuff in a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you just, you kept saying, I think I have a lot of value to bring. And that's really what it's all about, and I there's a lot of people who, want to come on the show and they think it might just be like a commercial for their business. And hey, at the end of the day, it kind of is, right? It is. But like, I don't want to talk just about your business. Like, tell me about your life and what you learned and what you did and, how you got, here, like this, I came, I saw, I fucking conquered.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, that's good stuff, and there's a story behind that. And it's just, you're at this jumping off point, I think, for different parts of your career in life. And it's cool, man. And I appreciate that you're here. And because it's like I said, this is like a a pivotal moment in OTS history.
We're going to bring it down. We're going to fire it up. We're going to light it up. We're going to have a good show.
Yeah, if I say that like one more time, everybody's probably going to shut it off because I'm like dragging this out. Like, I don't know. I think I'm just trying to like savor this moment.
Yeah.
You know, that it's like, this is, you know, not the show's ending, but like, you know, we're moving and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
well, it should be celebrated, right? And those are the things that I'm starting to see is those moments that people have, and that realization of taking time to be in the present. And, you know, when you take time to be in the present, it's different than offering your presence, right? Are you present in the moment, or are you merely just being present physically? Like, are you here? Are you attached? Are you engaging? Are you experiencing this, or are you just there? And there's a difference in that, right? So storytelling, getting people on your show to share their experiences with people. If there's one listener out there that it connects with and gets it, great.
that's a win.
That's it.
That's what I tell everybody. The
That's
same
it.
thing. That's it. And by the way, I'm gonna give a little shout out to my college friend Jerry Rizzo, who I know is gonna be listening to this episode because he's been one of my biggest supporters, you know, from the beginning. Has a podcast himself out in New Jersey, but the Radio Tavern podcast. But yeah, so Jerry recently suggested that I maybe do like this little, and I'm probably gonna do it. I think I already committed like verbally that I'm gonna do it. It's just I gotta find it. I'm almost in the middle of a move.
Time,
you know?
right?
Right. I'm breaking this stuff down right after you're done here, and I'm moving. But once I get set up in there, my friend Jerry suggested that I do like a little after show, maybe like the day after.
Okay.
And maybe do like an Instagram live video or something to that, you know, sense of, you know, where somebody interviews me about the show that just aired. And it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, tell me, like in Jerry's eyes, like he wanted to know like kind of like the background of like, how the heck did we even meet? You know what I mean? And what was my process of getting you booked on the show? And like, how did all that go down? And
It's
how
the
did
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, you see that with, you know, the newscasters, they go a day in the life of, and people don't realize they're up at like 02 in the morning, dark 30, and they're coming in to do their thing and they're prepping and doing this. Yeah, spin those tables around, Bill.
I
Let's
know.
see a little bit more about what your process is. So,
I know.
So
Yeah.
you obviously have a successful show.
Yeah.
You know, people could learn that from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, again, shout out to my buddy Jerry Rizzo.
Good job, Jerry.
Yeah, good job, Jerry. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna do it, and he's probably gonna be the one to join the live with me and answer the questions or ask the questions to me. You know, just to learn a little bit more about the behind the scenes. You know, kind of like when it took me 10 minutes to get all the cameras set up to make sure that, you know, your head's not cut off and, you know, I'm not over here
Yeah, who
falling
would have
out.
known? Who would have known how much goes into this? But like, it's amazing, but it shows in the end product. You know, all the work, all the time, all the effort, all the setup, all the tweaking, all the stumbling, all the oops, I knocked this over, I got to reset. Hold on, give me a sec. All that goes into it.
I kicked this tripod.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, but it comes out in the end. It comes out in something that's valuable and value added for people. I think that's what's needed.
On the Stacks will be back in a flash after a word from our sponsor.
A lot of times when people are in car accidents, the immediate shock or adrenaline after the accident, we kind of forget what we should do. First and foremost, you want to make sure that you're okay. But second, call 911. Even if you think the accident is small, call 911, ask for an ambulance if you need it. Then get out of your car before moving it and take pictures and go talk to the person that caused the crash. You want to get their insurance information, their driver's license, contact information, anything you can get from them so you can find them after the collision. Finally, call your insurance carrier and make a claim. And if you call us, we can help you walk through that process. So your job then is just to go get treatment and get better.
And now, back to our chat on the Stacks.
This is cool, man. So let's jump into it. So you are what I call a transplant to northeastern Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So where are you? Where are you from?
Yeah, so my backstory, I love that question, where are you from? Because as a Army officer, you can answer it in so many different ways depending on where you're at,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, a lot of stories.
Yeah, I grew up in Northeast Ohio. That's where I was born and raised. Spent time there. My mom and dad are still there. My wife has some family there. My wife and I met in Northeast Ohio. Youngstown State University graduate, proud Penguin.
All right, Penguins. Shout out to the Penguins. All right.
So we were getting married, and I still had a semester left in college when I was married, and I told my wife, I said, hey, we're Army bound. Are you in for the ride? So she knew what was going into it. She knew the commitment, and man, oh man, I love her to death. Her support, her love, her sacrifice along the way. Shout out to not just my wife, but all the military spouses out there that know what I'm talking about. So then we get married, graduate college, and set off on the wild ride.
What's your wife's name?
Kelly.
Kelly.
Yeah, my lovely Kelly.
Shout out to Kelly.
That's right. So we went to Fort Lewis, Washington, spent some time up there. Then we went to Aberdeen, Maryland, Aberdeen Proving Grounds, where I went to my officer basic course. My first duty assignment was then off to Fort Irwin, California, and the Army saw fit to keep me in the desert. Spent a lot of time out there. So Fort Irwin, California, deployed to Iraq in 2005. I was at FOB Spiker near Tikrit. In the meantime, my wife's family have moved from Northeast Ohio to El Paso, Texas, so she went with them. At that point in time, we had our first daughter, Alexandra. Alexandra, she's out there. She's now a freshman in college. You know how fast time flies. But so we had Allie. She's in El Paso, Texas. I'm in the desert of Iraq. I get back, Fort Irwin, California, and I get off of active duty at that point in time. I went to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and was out of the Army for a bit, but then got back in the Army Reserves. Spent time back in El Paso, Texas at Fort Bliss, back up to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and then Northeast Pennsylvania. I've been here for 11 years. So it took me a long way I had to go west to go east, and this is where we call home. And it's been fantastic ever since. I got to tell you, the one thing about moving back to Northeast PA from living out west, it's like the trees swallowed the sky. I could see Pikes Peak from my front yard. I could see vistas all around, and then I get back here, and I missed the Four Seasons. Oh, I missed the winter. I missed this. And I get in the first house I rented. I said, where did the sun go? The trees are so tall and green and lush. It took a little getting used to, but man, oh man, what a beautiful place to call home.
Yeah, excellent. So, all right, so let me back up a little bit. So what made you want to join the military?
Oh, that started early when I was 17, so I can still remember my mom crying at the dinner table when the recruiter came. I was 17 years old, and I had a sense of purpose at that point in time in my life. I wanted to help people. I wanted to protect people. And at 17, I thought my path was going to be going to the FBI, and I wanted to be a special agent for the FBI, kick down doors, get bad guys, and said, okay, what's my plan?
So what year was this?
This was 1998.
Okay, so this is coming up close, creeping up on 9/11.
Oh, absolutely. So 98, I enlisted in the Army National Guard as a military policeman. Because I was 17 at the time, my mom and dad had to sign off. So I spent my 17th birthday at the Cleveland MEP station, the military entrance processing station, getting in processed into the Army for the National Guard.
On your birthday?
On my birthday. The second day I was there, I missed my second day of my senior year in high school, right? Because I had plans. I had plans where I was going to be. So 99 is when I stepped foot in uniform for the first time. And to me, I felt pride. I felt a sense of belonging. I felt a sense of purpose. I love to serve. I love helping people. And like I said, protecting people, and serving a bigger purpose. So my dad made a deal with me when I enlisted, because he was enlisted in 1967, 69. He enlisted in the Army after graduating high school. Him and my mom were high school sweethearts. They got married, and then he did his stint in the Army during that time during the Vietnam War. And then he did another stint in the National Guard in the 80s. He made a deal with me. He said, I'll sign your National Guard papers. You can enlist if you do ROTC while you're in college, because as an officer, you're going to have a better life. You're going to have a better lifestyle. That was his perspective. And I'm thankful I had the guiding path that he put me on, because it was a better life. Now, I'll tell you, timing is everything. So you fast forward a few years, and I was doing ROTC, criminal justice major, right? Military policeman, ROTC. I said, my path to the FBI is getting
checking all the boxes.
Check. I'm ready, right? I'm gonna do a couple years on active duty, and then I'll be ready to apply. So then some curveballs came my way. First curveball was I met my wife at this time, my girlfriend, right? And then fiance, and then when you're in ROTC, the way it works, your junior year, you have to contract. Are you going to go? Are you going to commit to getting commissioned, or are you not? Because between your junior year and senior year, they send you out to, I'm dating myself, it used to be called National Advanced Leadership Course, and I don't know what it's called now, but essentially all the ROTC cadets, they put you through a 8-week, 12-week program. They rack and stack you, and then that's how they determine order of merit list for your branch, essentially what you're going to do in the Army, and then your first duty location. So I signed my paperwork on September 10th, 2001.
Oh, wow.
The ink wasn't dry. So I still remember Youngstown State University, Stambaugh Auditorium, right? They had a little ROTC department back there. September 10th, they're like, because you're right, school starts in the fall. Hey, you need this paperwork signed. We need to get you on board. I know you're doing it, blah, blah, blah. I said, yep, got it. I'm signing papers. And the next day, September 11th hit. And, boy, that was a tough day. So I remember driving home, and I'm just booking my way home. And this is, before I didn't have a cell phone, the home phone's blowing up, and kids don't remember the home phones. Like, the cord, that's 15,
right,
15 feet
hanging
long.
in your mom's kitchen.
Yeah. So,
My mom still got one.
that's awesome.
Shout out
So
to
does
my
my mom
mom.
and dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to the moms out there.
Shout out to
right.
the mom. Shout out to Sue.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sue and Peg. My mom's name's Peg.
Sue and Peg.
She's
They can
got-
call each other in the house phone.
That's right. So I'm booking home, and nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's happening. And I get a call that evening from my platoon sergeant. Because I'm enlisted in the National Guard at this point in time. He calls me and says, "Hey, get your gear ready. Stand by. We may be getting activated for who knows what." But they were putting the calls out. So the next day, I go back to school, and I told my professor of military science this is happening. And he says, "No, it's not." I said, "Yeah, my National Guard unit. They're called me up. What they ended up doing was they ended up going to airport security. Remember that when they had National Guard, they had airport security.
Yeah.
And then they went to a couple different active duty stations to bolster up security at the gate. So military police unit, they're doing physical security, and you could split off platoons at that time. So 3 of our platoons went to different locations. And my professor of military science said, "No, you contracted. You're not going anywhere." And I was infuriated because I went to muster, they gather everybody up. I had my gear. I saw my buddies going. I saw the people that I grew up with the past 3 years going off to who knows what to serve because they're getting called upon. And here I am, ready, willing, and able, but I had signed a contract the day before. Now, I didn't realize it at the time. I must have had people put in my path for a reason. He said, "You'll get your chance, don't worry." Now, this guy was a seasoned lieutenant colonel. He had been there and back, right? A little bit wiser, than the young guy here is just full of, piss and vinegar and wanting to go out and kick doors in and stand up and go do something, right? So he was right, though. So I did have my chance. And later on, once I got my commission, I was able to finish school on time. I got my commission, and then in 2005, I deployed to Iraq. So that's really, it's the story of how I got into the military initially as a enlisted soldier in the National Guard, and then how I got into active duty as an officer. So, big influence from my dad, influence from Colonel Hostler out there who put himself in and put his arm around a young fired up cadet at the point in time, and talk some sense into me about what the future holds and starting to think long term about things.
Yeah. So okay. So you already kind of answered the question, but I was going to say, what was was it your father that was the major influence in you joining?
Oh yeah, I remember him talking to us growing up, and he always had this way about him of you serve others, you help others, you give of yourself, and this sense of duty of you give yourself for your country. It's your duty. It's your patriotic duty to serve. My sister served in the National Guard for a stint. My brother, unfortunately, I know his heart in his head. He wants to serve, but he was born with a visual impairment that kept him out. But he has always helped. He's a high school guidance counselor, so he deals with recruiters and the whole nine, right?
So he's involved. He's involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you're in the military, your whole family's in, right? Whether you're in uniform or not, you're a part of that. You're part of that culture. You're part of that family, right? And service has very, very different meanings for some. Just because you don't wear a uniform doesn't mean that you don't necessarily serve in some way, shape, or form. But Dad was he's a big influencer on that. I remember, when I was a kid, he was in the same National Guard unit as me. So when I go there to enlist, I get back from basic training. He says, "Hey, did you meet Randy Stowell?" I said, "Yeah, Sergeant Stowell." My dad goes, "Is he still chewing on those Macanudo cigars?" I said, He is. It's like 20 years. My dad was 87, right? And this is 98, so it's years later. And, Sergeant Stowell still chewing on the old cigar hanging out of his mouth there. And then I had 3 or 4, sergeants at the time who were probably, privates and specialists when my dad was in. Are you Bruce Ramey's kid? Yes, Sergeant. Yeah, I could tell, right? So it was fun too, because it was, but just it was a family thing. It was something that tied me to my dad. I remember when I was a kid, the Armory always put on Christmas, a Christmas dinner, a Christmas holiday. So you go into the Armory and they looked like giants when I was a kid, towering over these big guys in uniform, and it had that Army musty smell about. Like you walk in and you can smell the supply closet, and you can, it had all these different senses, right? And I walked in now as an adult. I say adult, 17-year-old kid, and it's like, part of me was like, I'm still wearing my dad's uniform. I'm still hanging out playing G.I. Joe in the backyard, but I wasn't. So he had a huge influence on that, and I'm very proud to have served and kind of followed his footsteps, and then allowed him to talk some sense to me to propel me to the next level. Because being an officer in the Army and that time I spent with that experience really opened up just a ton of doors for me to kind of push me to where I am today.
Yeah. So where did that lead you?
Yeah. So my time on active duty was interesting. Like I said, I deployed to Iraq 2005. I learned that was like leadership by fire, literally some days and not, figuratively others. So at the time, I was 24 years old. I was second in command of a maintenance company. So we had 300 soldiers in our maintenance company, and I got tasked to lead a maintenance recovery team. So we took a small team. We'd go out on the supply routes and recover vehicles that were damaged or destroyed. So imagine we were like AAA for the Army. You call us when you're broke down and destroyed, only it's AAA in a combat zone with an enemy that has a say, and you don't know what's going to happen, and the vehicles are smoldering or smoking or things like that along the way.
Yeah,
right?
So it's a little more difficult than just breaking down on what road did you come in today?
Yeah, 115.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a little different than just breaking down on 115.
Yeah.
Not that you broke down on 115 today, but
right, a little more complexity, right?
Yeah.
But that's the spice of life. That's what you get into, right?
Exactly.
So, so that time being deployed to me was some of the greatest moments of my life and some of the toughest moments of my life. So I was married, and we had Allie, our oldest. And so this is before, Zoom and Skype and everything, was so accessible to you. I had a phone card. I'd call home, once a week, every other day, for a few minutes. And I had like Yahoo Instant Messenger up. I'd send a chat and this and that. So I remember one time, probably the hardest part of my deployment was I was chatting with my wife, and we got a call to go out on mission. And at that point in time, we were about 2/3 of the way through. So I had an idea of, I got called on a mission. It's about a 3-hour, 4-hour block is what they've been taking us to say, hey, babe, click. I'll be back in a couple hours. Sorry, got to go. And she knew what that meant. Now the difference in timeline, right, and where your head goes as a military spouse, like to me, it's nighttime, and her it was daytime. So she's watching CNN and everything on the news about the reports of what's going on in theater, and having really no idea exactly where I was or what I was doing. So that was one of her almost break points there, right? And thank goodness she was with her mom and dad and her brother and her family there to scoop her up and lift her up. And for me, so that mission took 6 hours, 7 hours before I got back. So it was twice as long. So she's wondering where the heck I'm at. We actually got into a little bit of a scuffle out there on that mission. This is why it took a little bit longer, to get there and do our thing and get back. But it's those moments that really shaped who I am about and what I want to do, which is lead people, which is help people get better, which is help people be the best that they can. And so at 24 years old, the solemn responsibility for somebody else's life in your hands is a weight that you can only truly experience. So everything from that point, I remember saying a couple of times on deployment, just get me back, get my soldiers back, all in one piece, and I will find something to do that is far away from this. So I get back home, and I remember hugging my wife and hugging my daughter, and the career path switch. At that point, I had a few months left to do. I said, okay, I'm going to get off active duty. I went to work at Target Corporation in their distribution pyramid. I was a group leader with them. They hired me because I was a junior military officer. They're like, oh, yeah, this is great. Yeah, leadership, got it. You proficiency, you understand processes, you can bring people together. Yeah, we love that. They recruit junior military officers. Great company to work for. I didn't realize it at the time. I got a pattern of this, of experiencing things and then looking back and say, geez, that wasn't so bad. Okay. So the job at Target was a first-line leadership type position. I had a team of 20, 25 people. We worked in warehouse and, we did well. Good compensation, good pay. I'm at home. I'm feeling good. I'm this and that. So we decide, hey, let's have another baby. Let's grow the family. So along comes Aiden, our son, and it wasn't long after he came, I got a letter in the mail. And this is when President Bush was surging, and they were pulling people out of what's called the inactive ready reserve. So I still had some time left to give. But I wasn't in uniform. I wasn't going to, battle assembly drills once a week. And I was waiting my time out. I got this letter. I said, oh, this one looks official because it had Captain Ramey written on it. I said, I'm not a captain. I got out as a first lieutenant. Well, apparently in the inactive ready reserves, I hit my promotion and they, it's as long as you were in good standing, which I was, they got my promotion. I open it up and it says, please report to Fort Carson, Colorado on this date and time. Bring your health records, bring your everything else with you. I said, okay. So I called the recruiter and said, hey, what's this about? And they said, oh, it's the surge. We're bringing people back in. We need people to, to fill some ranks. We're going to send, fill some units and send you forward and potentially deploy you for another year or so. And so how do I know if my name's on that list? Oh, we can't tell you that. I said, okay. Well, what options do I have? And they said, are you in a reserve unit by chance? I said, no. I said, oh, well, if you were in a reserve unit and doing drill, then, you wouldn't be eligible to deploy. I said, I'll be right down. So I got in the car. I called my dad and I said, hey, here's what's happening. Here's what I think I'm going to do. I need some quick advice. Now, I wasn't the happiest camper at that point in time, but when called, I serve. So I went down. And I knew more then at that point in time, right? It wasn't 17-year-old Will. It was, hey, I know the system. I know what I can get into. I know what I can't. I know I have more options than what you really tell me I probably have or what I think I have, right? So I had a good conversation with a great recruiter, career counselor there. I got into a unit that was doing training and plans and ops, and I went to Fort Bliss, Texas. So at this point in time, Bill, I had 2 years left to do. I ended up doing 3 more years. I extended past
on top of the 2.
Right. Yeah. So I had 2 left to give on paper. I ended up doing 3.5 because of the units I got back into. I loved. I wasn't exactly thrilled about Target at the time because in my head I'm moving boxes. I'm leading teams that move boxes from one end of a distribution center to another. Okay, that's good. Good work, good paycheck, but it didn't fulfill my sense of service. I got back in the Army. I had opportunity. I spent time at Fort Bliss, Texas. We trained, at that point in time, I was an operations officer. We trained 10,000 soldiers that came through Camp McGregor, New Mexico, that were getting ready to deploy. So I knew I'd been there. I deployed. I knew the importance of prep. I knew the importance of training, and I wanted to make a difference. So I did. I had my battalion commander said, hey, let's come back to Colorado Springs. I got a job for you at U.S. Northcom. I said, doing what? He says, we're revamping the entire way that the watch standards for the land domain, the Army guys and the Marine Corps guys and gals out there, the soldiers and Marines, the way that they train so that they can stand watch in the Emergency Operations Center. He said, I'd love to have you. I said, great, let's go. So I stayed on there. Buddy I met in El Paso, came back to Colorado, and then my orders were coming to an end. I said, geez, what do I want to do? Do I go back to Target? Do I not? So I ended up going back to Target for a few months, but I had a friend of mine. He said, hey, if you want to come back on full-time orders, we've got this great unit. I said, what do they do? He said, space operations.
This is it.
I said, space operations.
This is the moment I've been waiting for.
Right?
And I think everybody else, since they heard Space Force, right?
Yeah. So it's the Army, but the Army does space work. And people are like, no, you mean the Air Force.
Right. That's what I said to somebody, to Darren. I said the same thing. I said, yeah, he was in the Army. And I said, but he was also in Space Force. He goes, yeah, but no, that's Air Force. I was like, yeah, but I don't know. He said he was.
It's a very little known. So I spent my last few years on active orders in the Army on Air Force bases. Which is interesting, right? So at Army unit at Northcom, Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station, and then right next to the big Air Force Space Command, and then Space Force area, the next building over is the Army Space and Missile Defense Command. And unless you know it or in that that arena, you don't realize the Army has space assets. But we do. We do electronic warfare, commercial imagery, technology. We have to understand for comms links, right? I used to be able to explain to you how a signal went from ground station to the satellite in geosynchronous orbit, back down to the big parabolic antenna, through the lines on the ground into your radio here.
And
right? I could draw all that out.
Transfunctioner and everything else.
Well, I could throw like orbital perturbation and all these cool terms on that I've probably since forgotten, but I've learned, right? So I was a space operations officer, functional area 40. I got my space wings. Right, very much like Star Trek, right? So that was a running joke. It had the little like Star Trek-y emblem there, then the Buzz Lightyear wings official behind it. But it was official. It was the Army's official Army space badge. I earned that going through school, and I spent time with my some of the best people I've worked with were in that unit. And what made it great was it was brand new. So the unit was split. Half was active component, half was reserve component, and they really didn't know if that model was going to work. They said, I don't know if the reserve component can really handle. You had 1,500. Our mission, we had to train on the equipment for 1,500 some hours, get proficient at it, and all this type of stuff. So they said, well, we want to put a crew on active orders to see if you can actually do this, because we don't think you can. I said, sign me up. I'll show you, right? Because there's two things that you don't tell a Ramey. You don't tell me I can't. You don't tell me I won't, because I can and I will, right? So I got this crew, and at the time, I'm the old man in the unit. I'm not the commander, but I'm the graybeard. I was 28, and I'm the old guy, right? So I got brand new specialist privates right out of schoolhouse. So we had some signals analysts, we had some IT technicians, we had some SATCOM communication operators, and we got together and we pulled together to train to operate this equipment, and that's where I stayed. I extended out 1 year so I could stay on full-time with them to get them stood up, because what I saw in them was like looking back in the past at me. Those NCOs that took care of me when I was 17 in the National Guard, those officers that took care of me when I was first coming up, it was my turn to pay that back. So I stayed there that year longer. We trained together, we ate together, we built camaraderie. We came up with some pretty creative solutions to some problem sets running this equipment, right? Because when you're doing stuff with SATCOM links, like there's a whole bunch of different variables that come into play. They were smart, young, hungry soldiers that were just wanting to do something and wanting to contribute and wanting to get in their craft. And I didn't want to leave them behind. That was the hardest team that I left, because at the end of that year, it was make a decision or move out type moment. What am I going to do? Because they weren't extending reservists much longer. They were starting to contract a little bit. This was 2011 timeframe. So I needed to either go back to Target, which wasn't very appealing to me at the time. By the way, at this point in time, little Ella, our youngest, is coming along. So I have all these life.
Now we got number
kids.
3.
This is number 3.
All right, number
third
3.
and final.
That was it?
Third
okay.
and final.
All
Yep,
right.
Ella Jean.
All right.
Our firecracker there. So we've got Allie, we've got Aiden, we've got Ella, and I need to decide what am I going to do. So my wife and I talked about it, and I said, hey, we're out west, Colorado Springs. My family's in Northeast Ohio. At the time, I think her family was moving to Greensboro, North Carolina. Her brother was trying to get to Somerville, South Carolina. So we're on the wrong side of the Mississippi if we want to be close to family. So I remember we were driving back from visiting my my parents, and it was January 2011, and it was a 2-day drive. And I felt like Ron Burgundy. I was locked in a glass case of emotion. It was just a solemn drive home.
This is the goofy part.
This is the goofy part. A lot of people don't see. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Ron Burgundy.
I was locked in a glass case of emotion, so I'm driving 2 days on I-80, I-70, I said, babe, we got to get closer to home. She says, I know. So next week I got on USA Jobs. I said, I want to work for the government. Let me see if I can work for the Army. I got on USA Jobs, found a couple jobs, didn't want to work in D.C. because I didn't want to raise a family there. I said, geez, I said, maintenance. I said, Tobyhanna Army Depot. Depot maintenance. I said, I remember depot maintenance. I was commissioned originally as a ordnance officer, so we do base maintenance. I said, I remember maintenance. I could do that. So I put in for a job. I got a phone call. Hey, we'd like to have an interview with you. Great. Now, at the time, I was working in a secure building on Peterson Air Force Base. So I had to take my interview from my cell phone, and it's the wintertime in Colorado. So I remember very vividly, I got through the first interview great. They said, we want to interview you again. So fantastic. So
where'd you do the interview?
I was in my, at the time, my Grand Am.
Out in the parking lot.
Out in the parking lot, which was a half mile from the door in the wintertime, right? There's snow on my car. And I remember them asking, the second interview, they're getting a little bit closer to getting the job. And they said, hey, are you okay? Northeast Pennsylvania is kind of known for their winters. And I'm looking at 6 inches of snow on my car.
You're like, I'm frozen right now.
I said, yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm all right. I joke with them. I said, I grew up in Northeast Ohio. We had ice storms. They said, I'm here in Colorado. So the winters I was okay with, no problem. So I said, I got the offer. And my wife and I moved out here sight unseen.
Sight unseen.
Never stepped foot in Northeast Pennsylvania. But for military family, Army family, that's what you do.
It's normal.
Yeah, no problem. I said, we'll pack up. We'll drive across the country. And Ella, when we moved here, Ella was 6 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so brand new baby.
That's tough.
New house, new job, everything. Like I said, I married a saint. Kelly, you're a saint because she, scooped up.
Keep that tribe together, man.
That's it. She's the crazy glue that holds us together, and she does a good job with it. So we moved here and got the job at Toby Hanna, and I was serving again. Right, I was working for the Department of Army. It felt great. So the sense of service, is something that threads through me, and that's when for the past 11 years, I've been doing good things there, and I wanted more. Right, the best part of my job is when I get to meet with people one-on-one and help develop them, help them have aha moments, help them, hit a career goal, or help them get over a interpersonal struggle or a conflict that they're having. So how can I get more of that? So that's when, about 3 years ago, I decided to go back for my doctorate. All right, so my wife thinks I'm nuts. She's doesn't understand why I love school so much. School was kind of a check. I got it. I'm good.
Moved on. Yeah,
right?
You keep going.
Exactly. I need a license to be a cosmetologist. Check. I got it. And she loves her job, right? My sister will say she's dream weaving. She's doing what she loves. I love learning. I love school. She goes, this is the last one for you. I said, nah,
we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe, right?
Yeah.
So I went back to school. I got my doctorate from Drexel University. And I focused in on leadership. I wanted to get my dissertation. I wanted to get my hands in what this whole team dynamic, leadership dynamic thing was about. And I actually looked at the flip side of leadership. You hear a lot about, empowering leadership and, all these positive traits that good leaders have. Well, if good leaders have all these positive traits, why is it time and time again that survey data comes back from McKinsey Company and other places that the number one most unsatisfied aspect about people's job is the relationship with their boss, right? I'm like, well, there's something else going on. Like, we know what right looks like. Put it in place, right? So I dove into how to countervail, how to push back and mitigate toxic leadership. And that to me was a fascinating topic. So I wanted to take that, then understand more of that, because I had good models in the Army. I had bad models in the Army too. Everyone's got that. So the sense of wanting to do more is I got my doctorate so I could learn more about how to solve complex problems, complex leadership and team dynamic problems in organizations. So I brought that back to where I was working. And then I got my LLC started because I want to be able to go out and help train organizations in positive team dynamics, understand and be able to see and mitigate out any sort of unintended toxicity, right? Because sometimes people don't realize that they're being toxic. Sometimes they don't realize that they're being an authoritarian to somebody. It's just how they saw someone else lead, and it's how they lead. So the learning and the leading and the learning and the leading and the helping people, I'm like, this is what I want my day to look like 24/7, if at all possible. So I stood up Shared Leadership LLC, and we are I say we, right now it's a we of one, it's a me. But we're
you and Goofy.
Me and Goofy, right? Because we're going to bring the fun to it,
right?
So we do experiential learning type things, right? So we gamification, right? So when you have a team that comes together and you can do an exercise through Legos or puzzles and building things and case studies, you break that down. You make learning fun. You make learning stick. and then you relate it back to work, and you can take something with you the very next day. So the experiential learning combined with the leadership coaching, because I love that connected one-on-one element to it, right? Getting to know people. And I wouldn't be here in this moment if it wasn't for my time in the Army. 17 years old, responsible for people, 24 years old, deployed, responsible for people. What's interesting, I think, about me is I've never had a job of a team that I've led in my professional career. I've led maintainers. I don't know how to fix a car. I don't know how to maintain a vehicle. I don't know how to fix a generator. My soldiers are great at it. I don't know how to do that. I've led SATCOM, satellite communication teams. I'm not an IT person, nor am I tech savvy. I call my son, Aiden, I need help, tech support, right? But I've led teams that do that. At Toby Hanna, I've never actually done the work of the teams that I'm leading. So for me, I have to go in with a different way of leading. I have to go in with a different leadership style. And to me, that was empowerment. What is it that you need? Let me get to know you. Let me get to know what you need, your job. Let me bring the best out in you and this team. Smart enough to understand those processes, humble enough to say, you're the expert. Let's bring it together, right? So that's what I want to be able to bring to organizations is this sense of shared leadership. You don't need a title to lead. You need people. And it's an exchange with people. It's an influence with people. And everyone brings something to the table. Give them the opportunity to step up when they excel and to follow when it's somebody else's turn and time to shine too.
So take me back. Let's tie this all together, right? So take me back, whether it was that scuffle, that firefight that you got it on the side of the road, right? When your wife was worried you were gone for 6 hours. Was it then, or was it another time that you felt like in the Army you really excelled in a really high pressure situation? And how do you tie that, and how does that relate to your leadership coaching now?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's those moments along the way. I think that deployment was a very pivotal time. A couple of times we got into a couple of scuffles, firefights, IEDs exploding, things like that were out on the road. So you learn mutual support, you learn trust, right? You learn I can't be everywhere at once, right? So the maintenance recovery team, I didn't know how to operate a wrecker. I didn't know how to operate a crane. I didn't know how to, sling chains and tie this wrecked vehicle on a flatbed, but my soldiers were all trained for that. What I needed to do was provide them the space and opportunity to come up with creative ideas and come up with solutions along the way. All right. So what that does in a normal situation is, you learn to trust people, communicate with people. Well, that gets amplified, right? So it's like you want orange juice or you want orange juice concentrate, right? And you got that zing that comes through you. So in that complex situation, when the bullets are flying and the pressure's on, you really learn trust and decision-making and how to go with an 80% solution now rather than a 100% solution, 3 days from now. So that translated into really how I lead. That shaped how I lead teams. And what I find is as I'm getting a little older, I'm getting a little wiser, I have an inherent responsibility to help build leaders and build team members behind me and pass on that knowledge and help them succeed in their roles. So definitely tied to my experience in the military. The space operations crew I had, I think, is what solidified it for me and what helped transition me into wanting to have something of my own where I could go out and specifically help people. Not just the team that I'm assigned to lead in a formal organization, but if I have my own company, I can go out and touch other organizations and spread that out, right? Because that space crew, God bless them. I have on my desk at work, they gave me a signed picture, and they gave me a little plaque with our own team motto. It was called, "Get your swag on." That was our team motto because that was cool at the time.
Love it.
Right?
Yeah,
Get your swag on.
Yeah.
So I look at that in my office. I look at that. I place that someplace where I visualize it. I see it every day because it's a reminder of why I'm here and what it is that I want to accomplish, which is something bigger than my sense of self.
Very cool. What would you say was your greatest accomplishment in the whole time that you served?
Yeah. So number one was bringing all our soldiers home. So we had 2 recovery teams. We were on 24-hour call. One team was on one day, one team was on the other. Between the 2 teams, we probably ran 100 missions over a 12-month deployment, and we brought everybody home.
That's awesome.
Not everyone can say that, right? Yeah. So that's first and foremost my greatest accomplishment. Serving was that deployment, that time there. I think one that doesn't have so much heavy weight on it was probably getting that space crew set up, because that was fun. That was camaraderie at its best, and that was getting people set up for success, on their life path. I still have one or two people from that crew, 10 years later, reaching out to me, just checking on, hey, how's it going? I appreciate what you did, appreciate this, that, and it's always good to hear from them and catch back up.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, maybe say like the pressures that we as leaders, right, sometimes put on ourselves?
Oh,
how do you deal with that?
Yeah. So it's, it can be this sense of conscious competence, right? So I am conscious about what I'm supposed to do. I've seen it modeled. I've been to a course. I've read in a book. And you feel like it's you on stage every time you walk in as a leader. And don't think it's not. People are watching you. I had Rick Schultz. Rick Schultz was my general manager at Target. He took me around. He knew I was leaving. He was he was an aviator. He flew special operations missions. So we were bonded that way. He took me around. I remember he told me, Will, don't think for one moment at night when you're a supervisor or a leader of people that you're not a conversation at a dinner table. What kind of conversation do you want people to have about you? I said, man, the philosophy behind that. So picture that. You're eating dinner. You're with your wife, your kids, spouse, whatever, friends, buddies. Are you complaining about the boss? Are you saying, hey, I'm grateful. I got my boss gave me time off. I got this going on. I got that going on. I got an award today. I got recognized today. I've got an opportunity to get promoted or a temp promotion or whatever. Or are you like, this guy, wait till you hear what Will did today. I can't wait, crack a cold one. It's going to be a long conversation,
you don't want to
right?
be that guy.
Right. So I think as leaders, we put those pressures on because we have a sense of wanting to get things right. And I think some be perfect, and you're not going to be. Just know that. You're not going to be. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay to ask questions, and it's okay not to have all the answers. That's what you have a team for, right? And I learned that as my time in leadership positions. It was a forcing function. I didn't have all the answers because I never did that. I never did what you did. But I learned to have a conversation with you, and I learned to ask you. I'd come see you in your workspace. I'd come to you. I'd ask you, what do you think? What does this look like? And some people are like, I don't know. You're the boss. Make the decision. Okay, you have those types. But most people are, geez, no one's ever asked me that before. Well, I'm asking. And you might have to bask in some awkward silence. Bring out the answers. And then when you implement something that they've suggested, man, that does wonders.
They feel like $1 million.
Right, because they're contributing. That's what people want. Consistency and predictability in your day. To be heard, right? To contribute to a greater cause. And that could be, like I said, Target, great company. That could be to be the best retailer in the world, or it could be to, hold this ground on this hill in wherever country you're in the military. People want to contribute to a collective purpose. Give them the space to do that. You also, as a boss, I had a conversation with the guy one time. I had a couple of his team members come to me. This was at Target. I said, hey, can you talk to him? He's throwing his title around. He's throwing his position around. So I talked to the guy. I said, hey, what's going on? How's it going? He's new hire. And he said, oh, it's going well. I said, yeah, is it? How are you connecting with your team? Oh, easy. I give them their job. We start up. I give them their assignments, and away they go. They know if they're not working hard, I'm going to crack the whip. I said, really? So we started talking a little bit. I said, hey, do you mind if I come to your startup meeting, kind of watch how you do things? Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, you might learn a thing or two. I said, okay. So I go to, right? I'm like, hey, whatever. That's, you do you. I'm gonna be right here. Yep. I'm going to try to cool hand Luke it as much as I can, right? Cool, calm, collected. Yeah. So I go to a startup, and I see him firing stuff off, and I see the team member that came up to me, and we're talking. So I talked to him. I said, hey, first name was Chris. I said, Chris, how do they know that you're in charge? Oh, I tell them. I said, yeah, I saw that. I said, do you know how I know that you're in charge? I go, you're the one giving assignments. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that, right? And he looked at me like, and I said, look, you don't need to throw title. Some of these people have been here 15, 20 years. They know what's expected of them. Ask them what they need to help them out. Ask them what they need to make their job easier. Ask them what suggestions they have to improve productivity. They don't need to know that I'm the team lead and do what I say or else. They know that. They also know that if they wait long enough, another boss will be coming because you won't make it. Right? So they've been here 15 years, you've been here 3 months. Do the math. Right? And I said, what kind of leader do you want to be? Connect to your team. Don't throw title around. So I think sometimes people get caught in this organizational hierarchy, this position I hold, and they let that title get to them, or they let the pressure get to them, or they let this, I've got to tell you what to do.
And it shows through. It shows right through.
Yeah.
Right through to the team.
Right. And there's other ways to lead. So I'm actually co-authoring a book.
I was just going to ask you. I know I saw you talked about co-authoring a book, and I wanted to hear more about it.
Yeah. So this is what it's about, right? Is this shared leadership? So shout out to my co-author, my dissertation chair, faculty member of the Millennium at Drexel University, LeBeau College, Lauren DiNicenzo. Lauren, you're wonderful beyond words. Her and I took on this project. We have a contract through Stanford University Press. Our manuscript is due October 1st, so, tick,
Holy
tick, tick.
smokes.
So we're putting the finishing touches on, waiting for a review to come back and do some revisions. But the book is about this alternative approach to leadership. That's called shared leadership, which is where I got the name for my company. So imagine there's an African proverb I just read recently, kind of helps sum this up. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So when you share leadership, different elements can help bring this out in organizations. You've got the team environment. Is your environment designed for people to spontaneously collide and bump into each other? And do you have breakout spaces? Do you have room to talk and communicate? Is it expected? Right? Is a team composed of a diverse group of people with different perspectives and different functions? The team processes, like how do you get work done? Do you take time to reflect on it and talk about your after-action review of what went well and what didn't, what we want to change? The dynamics, is there trust? Is there mutual support? Is there communication flow? Is the team empowered to make decisions? And that's where you switch from this authoritarian, self-promoting, unpredictable leader, where leadership is viewed as something within a person, to shared leadership and empowerment, where leadership is a process that happens between people and it's fluid. It's a give and take, right? I wouldn't come on here and try to be a podcast host. You do it phenomenally, right? But if we were working on a team in production, like, yep, you're going to do this. I'm good at, organizing and keeping calendar dates. I'm going to book all your shows and keep you organized, right? So we start sharing in the responsibilities, and we start sharing in the influence of what happens on this team. And that's where, shared leadership emerges. You start to get some more creative solutions, some more higher team performance. And it clicked for me. I recently taught, I co-taught with Lauren, executive course at Drexel's MBA program. And it was on how to lead across an organization. So leading from a position of informal authority. So we did this really cool Lego exercise. Everyone got their own individual assignment. Nobody was allowed to talk or share their assignment with somebody else, right? You couldn't just say, here's my assignment. And you couldn't just, write it out on a piece of paper. So you had to work through this. And 20 minutes, build a structure. Here's your Legos, go. And that type of experiential learning is phenomenal because people are having fun.
I would have loved to have seen this.
Oh, it was crazy. So you hear like 3 minutes in, you hear giggles, you hear laughter. I'm like, oh, laughter in an executive MBA program? Yes, right? So the point of the exercise was here's a communication barrier that you have to overcome, right? So at the end of the exercise, they build their structure. At the end of the exercise, we debrief. And I asked the question, was there a team leader assigned? And I got hit with a resounding no. And I laughed and smiled. I said, okay. No, I knew. I handed out the assignments. I deliberately didn't assign anybody to be in a formal leadership position because I wanted to see, give them the experience on how do you come together as a team without anybody being designated as a leader. I said, well, how do you know there wasn't a leader assigned if you weren't allowed to talk? And the one student, quick answered, well, nobody was stepping up, taking charge, and giving directions. Nobody took over. I'm like, it hit me like a brick. Is that how we view leadership? The person stepping in and taking charge and giving direction? If you look at the Army's definition of leadership, it's the ability to influence a group of people to accomplish a common goal or objective. That's it. Nothing about position, nothing about title. The ability to influence, right? So people can do that all the time. If you set those elements up in your organization, you'd be surprised at what emerges. The person sitting in the corner who's quietly observing everything may have the best idea, but they also may be the lowest ranking quote unquote person in that room. Give them space to have voice. But it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's how we view leadership. Everyone in that room was like, oh yeah, that's, no one stepped up. No one took charge. No one was shouting direction or trying to, hone people in.
It's a backwards, everyone has not everyone, but a lot of people have a backwards view of leadership.
Right. It's the organizational chart with the highest block at the top. And that's not what leadership is. That's position, right? That's title. That may be...
Doesn't mean you're a leader.
No, it doesn't mean you're a leader, right? Not at all. It's those people who influence. And I think when we talk about, toxic leadership, we talk about, what can I do if I'm working for that authoritarian or that unpredictable, the person that comes in and says, I forgot my coffee, it's going to be a horrible day for you, right? Or they take your work, and when their boss comes around, hey, look what I did, right? And they don't give you any credit for it. It's all about self, right? That unpredictable type behavior. People don't realize that power at work is fluid. That boss needs you to perform just as much as you need them to get you resources and remove roadblocks. So why struggle? Why should that leader put all the onus and ownership on them and put all this undue pressure on them to perform and then potentially go off on a different direction with poor behavior when they've got a team of people around them that can accomplish so much more together?
100%.
Yeah.
Hit the nail on the head.
The power's in the pack, man. It's the wolf pack.
That's right. That's your slogan, isn't it?
That is, yeah. The power of the pack. So that's it's the working title of our book. It's also that's where I got the name for my website, Empower the Pack, because when you look at it, the lone wolf doesn't survive. Right? The strength of the pack is the wolf. The strength of the wolf is the pack. And when you look at that wolf pack behavior, you've got people leading, people guarding your flank, people moving you on the hunt. All these wolves, they all have a job to do. And if one of them doesn't contribute, then the whole pack will be in trouble. Right? So look at your team that way. You had this whole lone wolf mentality when we talked to I'm a lone wolf. I'm a renegade. Okay, we'll see how far you go. Right? Versus someone that brings their team together and say, yep, you've got the food, I've got the water, I've got the camping, whatever you're bringing together to move out. You can do a lot more together.
Yeah. So what do you think is the most important trait a leader should have?
Yeah. So willingness to learn, right? You look at work from Carol Dweck, right? Growth mindset, fixed mindset, those type things. When a leader has a willingness to learn, they will open themselves up to the possibility that they don't know everything. They will ask questions. They'll try to master their competency. So you don't need to be the smartest in the room. You don't need to be the most technically proficient. You don't need to be the loudest or the most well-spoken, right? I had a conversation with the retired general officer from the Air Force, and she had the wherewithal and was very humble to say, you know what, I'm an introvert. So when I need someone to get up in front of a group and rah-rah and bring them together, I put my second out front because she knew what was best for the team, right? Most people say, oh, you're the highest person ranking. You should be out in front. No, I've got a team of people for this,
I know
right?
somebody who might be better at it.
Right. So why not give them the opportunity to do that?
Put your best foot forward.
It's best for the team, right? So when I look at the most important trait for a leader, I think it's the willingness to learn, to be open, to ask questions, and to bring people together, to be willing to share your power with people, to be willing to meet people where they're at. That connection is so important, right? So if you're willing to learn, it's not just about the job and the business process, but then you want to learn about that person. What drives you? What motivates you? What gets you up in the morning, right? Is it 3 snooze buttons and a Folgers, Colombian, or is it your feet are hitting the floor before the alarm goes off and you're getting out for a morning run? Like, how are you starting your day? What brings you to work? Why are you here? It's that craving to learn, right? That's what I think is one of the most important traits for a leader to carry.
How do I get an advanced copy of this book?
Yeah, yeah. Once we get through the review
an official
process,
copy,
I'll square you away when
Cool.
when we hit it. So it's going to be the book was interesting. It was man. If you ever publish, right? I learned there's a lot of different ways to publish, right? You can pay to publish, right? So you write your book, you pay, you go through and you get the marketing and they print and away you go. And then you have your big contract deals with people who, I'm going to give you an advance, write the book because I'm hedging my bet that this is gonna sell. And what Laura and I did was we went through a university press. So they're not for profit. But man, it's a long process. So we started it, got on contract, and we're writing. And what we found, it was a fun process. I love the challenge, right? So I learned something new, challenged myself, got to work with Lauren some more on this. And what we took away from it was we mixed and meshed research with stories from the field. So what we have is each chapter is an element of shared leadership, and then we have interviews from executives, military officers, leaders in the field on how this applies and where it emerged and what it looks like. So you're not just getting like a dry science book. You got the science behind it, the research to support it, but then you're also getting the stories from people on how this shows up for them in their workplace. So I'm excited to see it in print. That'll be a triumphant day for me, even I don't sell a single copy of it, just to get it
I'll buy
to
one.
that point. Thanks, Bill. You're the man.
Yeah. But no, seriously, I'm looking forward to it. When is there an official like release date, and how can somebody buy it?
Yeah, so no release date yet. We have about a 12-15 month process from October. So we send the manuscript in. Because it's a university press, they're going to send it out to some academics to review. We'll revise it, and then so this time-ish next year we should be hitting print. So long anticipation.
Well, that's okay. You know what this leaves for us. This leaves a Dr. Will Ramey Part 2 on the Stacks podcast.
I'd love it. I'd love it.
So when that book comes out, you remind me.
Fantastic. No, I will. I'll take you up on that for sure.
Yeah. But I got to get an advance copy.
You got it. No problem. Deal.
Sounds good. All right. So, I mean, how can our listeners learn more about you? And, for the leadership coaching, like how can somebody, you're taking on clients, right? How can somebody learn about you and book you?
Yeah. So definitely taking on clients. Also, looking to work with organizations that want some sort of, training or workshop and coaching. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. William Ramey. I think I'm the only one out there. LinkedIn's the only social platform I'm on, but it works well when you put it to work for you. And then my website, empowerthepack.com. You can reach me there. I actually have some free leadership guides, right? So I have some tips on how to overcome stress in your first 100 days as a new leader. I have a free guide on how to build high-performing teams. I even threw a free guide in there on some tips and tricks on how to navigate a toxic boss. So if you go up to that website, you'll find you almost can't miss it because it funnels you to it every page you get on.
It does. I was there.
So it's working.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So get those free guides. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let's have a conversation. I'd love to help build better leaders, build better teams, right? So the experiential learning, the leadership coaching, the website, I'm ready to propel on the platform, Bill. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready for you. I don't know. You got me all pumped up.
Awesome.
Yeah. And by the way, you absolutely crushed it. And you really brought it home in this episode, man.
Oh, man. I might well up to it. My first time and last time in the studio.
Yeah, first and last. And, you got a year now to practice for the next one. Everyone's going to be waiting for this next episode in a year from now. So we got to...
I'll bring it.
Yeah, you gotta bring it again.
You got it, my friend.
Part 2, you gotta pump it up a little more.
That's right. We'll crank it up to 11.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I appreciate. I'm glad we met just via LinkedIn. By the way, I don't know if I actually said that earlier, but that's how we discovered each other. And I'm grateful to have connected with you and met you and learned a little bit more about you today. And I think what you're doing is great. And I know it's going to sound a little cliche, but thank you.
If you want to see more On the Stacks content, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/On the Stacks podcast, or search the hashtag On the Stacks on Instagram,
I appreciate the
Facebook,
opportunity.
and
Thanks for
LinkedIn.
having me.
All right, dude.
If you enjoyed this
All right, On the
podcast,
Stacks
please
podcast,
subscribe
Dr.
and
Will
leave a
Ramey.
review. We'll
Thanks for
catch you
joining.
next time on The Stacks.